All right, so this week I want to talk about creating your future with thought, and subtitled How the Thinking Feeling Loop Can Hold You Hostage or Set You Free. And we've talked about this briefly in the past, but I think it's worth remembering because it's easy to forget. And I've been reviewing some books that I've read in the past again this week, and it just came back to me, and it hit home for me. And I think it hits home, likely will hit home for everyone on the call in some way. And so, are you chained to your past? Do you wake up every day and the old ball and chain has you in the same routine over and over again? And instead of being the light in your day, you allow your past to dictate your day, right? Another way to look at it would be there's three places you could live. You could live in the past, you could live in the future, or you could live in the now. Where are you living? Most people are living in the past, even if they say they're not. And the reason for that is that if you're not actively creating your future, your present and your future are being created by your past. And we'll dig into that in a minute. But one thing to also mention is that if you're living in the now, your focus is right now, and you're being present, and you're attentive to, current day, current moment things. If you're living in the past, you've probably heard living in the past is regret, living in the future is anxiety, right? Because you regret things you would do different, or you wish you could change, or you're anxious about the future. You're anxious about the meeting with your boss, or you're anxious about finding a spouse, or you're anxious about the next paycheck, or whatever it is. And so even if you're living in the future that way in anxiety, really that's your past creating your future for you. And we're going to show you how that's true today. Okay. So if you are waking up every day and it's Groundhog Day, you're living in your past, and your past is creating your future. How and why could that be true? Well, tell me this. What's the first thing you do when you wake up each morning? First thought or first thing that you do? I will go out on a limb and say many people, the first thought is, oh, bleep, right? Some insert swear word here. Right? You're hitting the alarm clock, it's morning already, or you didn't sleep well and you finally fell asleep too late in the night or too early in the morning, and now it's time to get up again. And so, that first thought is a negative one if that's what you're doing. Or if you don't really have a thought, if you wake up and you reach over and turn off your alarm clock, and your alarm clock happens to be your cell phone or some sort of device, you turn it off and then you look at it and you scroll Facebook or Instagram or read the news or do something negative, right? But you get some sort of device fix. And then you think, oh, I need to go to the bathroom, and that thought carries you to the bathroom. And then you think I should shower, that thought carries you to the shower. You think I need to eat breakfast, that thought carries you to the kitchen, and you make probably the same old breakfast. And in this way, you're repeating the same routine, okay? And so neurologically, thoughts occur in your brain. Your brain is there in your head, and once it's moving or taking action, it's a mind, right? So neurology and action is mind. And so thoughts create mind, and once thoughts happen and mind happens, then now you're creating emotions, feelings, and chemical response. Okay, so if we go to the next slide and we say, once we're awake, we have a thought. That thought is brain in motion, so that's mind. And once you start to have mind, once you fire neurology, there's going to be some sort of response, and that response is going to create an emotion and or a feeling and or a chemical response. It's all one thing. And then that emotion creates another thought. Why? Well, because the emotions we have, emotions tie us and or are linked to the past, right? Everything we remember from the past has some sort of emotion tied to it. A happy emotion, it was my wedding day, or it's when they proposed, or it's my first touchdown, or my first cross-country race win, or my first piano recital, or my first breakup. There's some sort of, there's a happiness, or there's a sadness, or some sort of emotion to it. Emotions charge memories. And when we think of memories, the memory, the associated feeling or emotion is with that memory. So if every day I wake up and say, oh crap, another day, there's an emotion with that. And that emotion, the thought originates in your brain. That's the brain piece. The emotion originates or is the body piece of the thought or thinking, right? So you could look at it this way. The thought occurs from the brain. Then you have a chemical physiologic response, a hormone response, or a neurotransmitter response, which leads to an emotion or a feeling. And it's worth mentioning right now that you have the thought, and then you have a feeling or emotion, and those feelings and emotions, like I said, could be caused by a hormonal or neurotransmitter response. Well, serotonin's a neurotransmitter, right? And 95% of serotonin is actually found in the gut. So the thought, you have a mind, a brain thought, and then a gut feeling, say, in regards to serotonin at least. So you have the thought, you have the emotion, you have the thought, you have the emotion. So when I wake up and I say, oh crap, and I say, oh shoot, I have to talk to my boss today. And if those are negative emotions, that fuels more negative thought. And so I'm going to be in the same wheel or same loop or same cycle or same routine of the life that I don't want to be in, right? And that routine can hold you hostage. And so the same way that thought feeling or that thought emotion loop holds you hostage, in the same way, if you flip the inputs, that can be freedom for you as well. So the same way that you woke up and held yourself hostage for years by letting your past create your future, by thinking the same thoughts and going through the same motions, you can change your thoughts and change your emotions associated with those thoughts to positive ones and create freedom and create the future that you want just by changing your mind. And how does that happen? Through the energy associated with the thought emotion loops. So we've all experienced being in a room and someone walks into the room and they could either take the air out of the room because they're a negative person or they're in a downer state, or you've been in a room where someone walked in and that room is now buzzing because that person is an upbeat, energized, happy person, right? Well, what is that that you notice? Like, what changes the room? It's that person's energy, right? We are literally packages of light, okay? We emit biophotons, we emit energy, we emit electromagnetic fields, and our fields, different wavelengths emit different energy. And so a happier person is at a higher wavelength, a higher energy, than a sad or bummed person or downer person is a longer wavelength and a slower energy. And it's interesting, I was listening to a book today that talks about all energy is light. And we think of light as just what we can see with our eyes, which is just the visual spectrum of light, okay, the color spectrum. But in the entire spectrum of light, you know, we think of light as only being the colors, like I said, but on the red end, once you can't see red anymore, that's infrared, okay? And all the way down to far infrared, down that way. Once you see above the indigo and violet, you have ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, all high frequency light. It's still considered light, it's just we can't see it. So the visual light in the electromagnetic spectrum is 1% of all light, okay? So this author said, if we're only basing our lives on what we can see, like our experience of the universe and all that's out there, on the 1% we can see, then we're missing out on 99% of reality because we're not tapping into it. But it's that 99% that we are feeling. It's some part of that 99% outside the visual spectrum that we're feeling when that negative person walks in the room or that positive person walks in the room. And because that is energy and it's literally electromagnetic spectrum, if we can raise our energy to be coherent with that energy out in the universe, or that consciousness out there, then we can literally create our future and draw our future toward us, whatever that might be. Maybe that's, hey, this is my ideal spouse, or this is my ideal job, or this is my ideal state of health. Well, you have to first sit down and say, you know, what is ideal health to me? What would that look like? What would that feel like? What would my emotional state be like? How would I think? How would I act? Right? And by getting yourself, to know what that would look and feel like, and then to put yourself in that state ahead of time, put yourself in that energy, live as if you're there already. Now you are raised to the energy level that is coherent with the energy level that is, and that you want to meet to be that person. The longer you can be at that level, the more quickly you become that person, and the more likely it is that you, the living radio signal receiver, can receive that right frequency. Right? You're a walking radio. It's like you're trying to tune into 107.3 or 95.1 or whatever they are. You set yourself to the frequency you're trying to receive, and once they match up, you have a clear radio station, metaphorically. Okay, so how do we break that feeling or that thinking feeling loop if we're in a negative one? Or even if we're in a positive one, how do we go to the next level to tune into the frequencies we want to create the life we want? Instead of letting our past create our future, we want our future to create our future. It's through awareness and meditation. Okay, the monkey mind, stress, keeps us locked in this loop. Okay, our schedules keep us locked in this loop. Our excuses keep us locked in this loop. It's not until we can clear our mind and get quiet and get present that we have the opportunity to leave behind who I am, where I am, what time and place I am in, so that we can just be aware and open to receiving and creating the energies we want. And that's what meditation does. That's what breathing does. That's what activating the parasympathetic nervous system does. It opens you up to be a creator and a receiver and a radio transmitter and radio receiver, or light transmitter and light receiver more accurately, because radio waves are just one form of light. So let's focus this week on adding intention to taking out time to meditate and really be quiet and think about what is the future me that I want to be, or the future me that I want to create, and invest time. Let's shoot for 15 minutes a day to just get quiet and meditate and work on leaving behind the physical aspect and the routine aspect, but focus on just being aware of what it is I want to create, and being aware of, is the past dictating my future right now? Am I defaulting to routine and to previous, emotionally hardwired programming? That's way too easy to do now. It's almost subconscious. We have to consciously go, nope, I'm not going to fall back into that short fuse reaction. I'm not going to wake up and just fall into the rut right away. How can we create new pathways and a new path forward? So let's open it up for questions, comments.
Well, this couldn't have come at a better time for me. I'll tell you, I really need this today. I am slipping back into terrible sleep. When I had great sleep, it's easier to feel free. And I honestly, when I felt well rested, I literally said, oh, wow, this is how the other half live, really. It is fundamentally something that everything hinges on good sleep. I totally believe that, because everything is tainted. And I do believe that, and I've tried this, if you have thought and it affects your emotion, if you don't have thought without feeling, it's never going to work. You just can't say, I am healthy. If you don't feel it, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. All the Post-it notes in the world isn't going to save you.
No, and that's correct, because that stays in the cortex. That stays up in the cortex, which is the conscious mind. And you have to get that I am healthy down into the subconscious. And the only way to do that is to charge it emotionally. Yeah. To just, head knowledge doesn't get there. It has to, be heart or gut knowledge. Right. And that's where the emotional aspect comes. And that's why they say, like you said, reading your affirmation on a Post-it just like this is nothing. But if you're like, screaming it or doing it energetically charged, it's going to have a greater effect. Just like people who, are at a doctor and the doctor says you have cancer and you have 6 months to live, and they say, don't ever say that again. They decide right there emotionally, that is not me. I'm not buying that. Hey, Paul. So it's literally, that doctor would be right if they accepted that, right? Because you're accepting that programming essentially. But the person saying, hell no, you're wrong. Don't ever say that to me again. I'm going to beat this. They beat it right there, right? It might take time, but it's just because energetically they beat it right there. And change happens first in the energetic fields, okay, or in the quantum, or in the electromagnetic, say, consciousness. And the physical body is the last manifestation of that. So that person beat cancer, for example, right then, and then it takes, like, energetically, and then it takes time. The physical body is the last part to change. So, and that's if you read any sort of Ayurvedic or Eastern traditions, all say the physical body is the last manifestation of the etheric body, they call it, or the spiritual body. And so think about, if you ever know anyone who's been abused, oftentimes, especially sexual abuse that might make someone feel unworthy or dirty or whatever, oftentimes that manifests as GI issues, maybe a Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, because that's where we hide our deepest, darkest secrets, right? Way down deep in the GI. And so there's different where issues show up, can relate to a person's life experience, from a spiritual, emotional, psychological aspect. And I don't even know how I got on that point.
Good job, Aaron. Good job. It was good. It was excellent.
Weather affected as well?
Excuse me?
Does weather have any effects? I mean, I moved down here from a place where there'd be 12 days straight, no sun at all.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to call it cabin fever. People would just get testy.
Yep. Yeah. Or seasonal affective disorder would be the medical name for that. Where, hey, you live in the north and it's gray, you live in Ohio and it's gray from today until the end of March, right? And so it's easy. Part of that might be vitamin D deficiency, right? We see more MS at higher latitudes because there's less sun, less vitamin D. So yeah, weather and environment definitely can play a role. And so in those places, you have to be more intentional about creating your day, whether you can see the sun or not, right? Like Jennifer said when we started, you have to be the sun for yourself at minimum. you know.
I really like that. I mean, this can affect, I mean, like, I like how you started with the, what do you do the first thing you do before you get out of bed? And obviously, my whole life hasn't been like this, but I pray, meditate, or whatever before my feet hit the floor. Mostly I am just so grateful.
Mhm.
But this journey, it just doesn't happen overnight. And if you can't mentally make that switch between the Post-it note and the action every day, it's impossible. And I want to say, when I was diagnosed, it was like, what, and people were saying, like, what you were talking about with the doctor with the cancer patient or whatever, and they said, well, there's a really good chance within 5 years you're not going to be working.
Mm.
I was like, it's like, I'm rejecting your reality and I'm going to insert my own at this point.
Yeah.
However, and I was from the get-go, I'm processing this. I had no idea what was ahead of me. And yet it was like, I'm not going to let this define me, kind of thing. Well, that's just stubbornness. And then, you start down this road, and I had a lot of things going on when I got diagnosed too, a lot of bad things. And so, but then you got on a road and you're like, okay, well, Scott and I did paleo and we got better, we got healthier, but it was like still not fully here.
Mhm.
We could do it and it made changes, but what happened? We fell right back into, we bought a house, we remodeled it. We fell right back into this horrible plan of eating. And before, I met Dr. Bartemus, it was like all of my dominoes had to fall. And I hate that. That's what had to happen before it became here. Like, I think everybody would like to say, I don't need something super bad to happen to me to make me, but sometimes we just do. And we don't want that, but, and now it's like, I can't even, not like we're perfect. We try really hard, but it's just different now. It's different now that it's so different when you get off the Post-it note. And it takes time, it takes repeat, it takes, what you said, the key is consistency every day, day in, day out. And setting your mind on, okay, this day felt like crap, but I did what I was supposed to do. And I don't know if I'm getting anywhere, but then you don't feel good. And then he tests you and you're like, wow, I'm doing something from the inside out. And you don't even realize it because you're being consistent. And so it's so good to have people like this in your corner saying, don't quit and breathe, Karen, so you can sleep, and whatever it is, because it's not an easy journey. It's not. So, I mean, when I met Dr. Bartemus, I was in a place where I was eating ice cream every single day because I had heartburn so bad. And that was the only way that would fix it, was ice cream. That's terrible. That is horrible. I mean, like, I think about that now and I was like, I can't even believe that I did that. But you do, you get in these bad cycles, this loop right here. That's all it was. And I was a stress eater and it was horrible. And it just did not help my disease at all. So it's madness. Really.
Yeah, it's insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
Is Einstein's definition. So there absolutely is a willpower aspect, but then beyond that, there's like a being aspect, right? So the willpower is like, I don't want to, but I'm going to read my Post-it notes before I go to bed, or I don't want to, but I'm going to do this workout. Right. But that's absolutely legit, but there's also a certain amount of fake it till you make it to that part. Right. Whereas the energetic piece, we can't fake, we have to absolutely do the work. Again, until that, I picture it like your routine are ruts in the grass, right? And you've driven over that every day for years, right? So if I go meditate for 5 days, I'm driving over a new path those ruts definitely haven't grown in, and I haven't created new ruts over here. So if on day 6 it's Saturday and I want to sleep in and I don't want to do it, or whatever it is, I fall right back very easily in those ruts. So that to make new ruts is hard and requires work. And if we're talking about the energy meditation side of things, you really can't fake that, right? Like you can sit through meditation time and be like, yeah, I sat there quiet and did it, but you walk away, no, the monkey mind was on the whole time, right? I let it get me. So really, and that, I mean, it's going to happen to all of us, but while you're in that, again, it's then sometimes you meditated and it didn't feel that fruitful, but if the whole time you were just correcting the monkey mind, you're winning, right? It's like, I'm aware that it's there. So no, I'm not going down that path. I'm back to breathing and focusing on whatever the heart center is, or focusing on my heart and the space around my heart, and then my chest cavity and the space around my chest cavity, and the room outside my body and the space outside the room outside my body, So to tame the monkey mind, you bring your awareness to a different area, because we can't think about two things at once. And by thinking about space around things versus thinking about to-dos. So to-do keeps you in beta brainwaves, which is the monkey mind. You're not going to get what you're trying to get that way. If we bring awareness to an area, like where's my heart? Where's the space around my heart? Where's the space around my chest cavity? When you're thinking about spaces, that actually is opening your mind. It's called divergent thinking, and that moves you into alpha brainwaves, which is more relaxed and more creative, and moving into parasympathetic nervous system, which is the health and healing side. And then if you get really good at it, we can get into delta, which is very deep relaxation. And so, it's training your mind to calm down and get into brainwaves that we don't get into often while we're awake, because to-do lists keep us beta, devices and swiping keeps us beta. Thinking about everything keeps us beta. So we have to calm down. We have to shut devices off, make sure your Wi-Fi is unplugged when you're going to sleep. Karen, if you're not sleeping deeply, literally what's happening in sleep is you're changing brainwave levels. So meditation is helping us do the same thing. It's basically neurofeedback without a neurofeedback machine. If someone ran an EEG on you, they'd say, okay, you're awake, you're about to meditate, you're in some level of beta, you close your eyes and you start to focus on spaces around space, you're moving to alpha, you're more quiet, you're more relaxed, you have opportunity to be more creative there. You move into delta, it's even wider, you might start getting crazy awesome ideas. If you get deep enough into gamma, now you that's like intuition and maybe mystical experience and connecting to the global unconscious. So let's just shoot for alpha to start. Like, let's just shoot for
I like
hey,
that.
I know where I am. I can feel, focus on spaces around spaces to the point where, hey, can I feel the four walls of the room that I'm in, right? Can I feel myself, but then feel the space between myself and those walls? And if you're there, being able to feel that and picture that, because you know what room you sat down in, you're moving into alpha. And then when you get there, you're like, okay, well, where is this room? Can I feel the room outside this room? Can I feel the space outside my home? And as you expand the spaces you can feel, you're going deeper alpha, maybe into delta. So you can do it. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged, because that's what the monkey mind wants you to do. That's what the world wants you to do.
Yeah, you just need to punch the monkey and be an alpha.
That's right.
I need to take a news break too. I've just
Exert your alpha.
I've just been tuning into social media news, and I just need to take a break from that for a while.
That's the monkey. That's the
Yeah,
cage for sure.
It's getting worse for me. So yeah.
I mean, that's that guy, right?
Hey, but Karen, that's really big that you know it. I mean, you're aware of it. You fully know where it's taking you. So that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
And Karen, way back. So there's, what kind of, do you have an Android or an iPhone?
Android.
So on Android, what one is it? There's an app. There's an app that can measure the time that you're on your apps and on your social media. So we can literally see like how much time I wasted today on Facebook and Instagram and that sort of thing. And if we took whatever that number is for you on an average day and you just meditated instead, you know, your energy is totally different. And it's interesting, this weekend I was at my daughter's softball game, and we were sitting between games, and someone, you know, I hadn't caught up on my Facebook Messenger and my Instagram direct messages in a while. So I went through to try and clean them all out, and someone sent me a video of Biden saying that first responders who haven't got vaccinated should be fired right away. And it just, you know, pissed me off. And my buddy next to me is running for town board here, and he's of the same mind, and he's like, dude, why are you even watching that? That's just like, why are you gonna make yourself mad over that? And it's like, yeah, that's, you know, why? Because I knew what he was gonna say, but you know, somebody sent it to me, so I wasted time on it. And I let it, my response, I lost, right? So instead of doing that, you know, if it has Biden talking, I know it's going to be a waste of time. So why would I ever watch any of that again, right? Invest that time in anything else. So, you know, social media can be beneficial, but for a lot of us, we go way too far down the rabbit hole in a negative way. And, you know, at risk of sounding like a conspiracy theorist, that's what they want, because then we literally get stuck swiping, right? Because the swiping triggers dopamine, and dopamine's our feel-good neurotransmitter, and it's like you're just getting a heroin hit. Oh, just one more. What Jennifer post today? What Danielle post today? Oh, I haven't seen it yet, right? We love Jennifer and Danielle, but your time is better invested in yourself, meditating, and then making them happy by them seeing your post at how good you feel about not looking at Facebook.
Which is exactly what I posted.
Yeah.
When you go, if you go and see it, you know, we went to Arizona in March, and I never posted about it. I never did, because I was trying not to be on there very much, and like it was so amazing, but I was just like, ugh. It just makes me want to throw up right now, you know, and I just don't have anything to do with it. So I was very minimal on it, and so I actually said that I'm really sorry. Well, what I originally posted, Scott was like, well, maybe you want to not say that.
Tone it down.
Tone it down. And I'm like, I'm just kidding. It feels good to type it. I'm not going to send it.
Yeah.
but yeah.
Karen,
That's another trick, though. Writing things down or writing to someone and not sending it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are all sorts of little tricks to get through life on the positive side.
Especially if you write it, like physically write it and then rip it up. Yeah.
Yep.
Karen, go ahead.
There
Danielle.
are apps for meditation too.
Oh yeah. Headspace is a free one. There's a bunch of them. Karen, are you in Winston area?
Yeah.
So you can get to Stone Mountain pretty quickly.
Pilot and Hanging Rock are closer.
Oh, Hanging Rock's good. Yeah. So we went to Stone Mountain 2 weeks ago, I think, and hiked that, and, you know, sat on top of it and just looked at the valley. And it's like, that's a good way to clear your mind and connect with different energies. Just go look at nature, you know, leave the phone in the car, go up there, you know, get barefoot and just
Dr. B, I'm at the point right now where I could just walk into the woods with my Eno and just stay there.
Yeah.
I'm serious, because I think that would help me so much if I could just be a hermit for a little while, just a little while.
Yeah, you don't
That's
even
not
need.
healthy.
Yeah, scientifically, 7 days is ideal, but 3 days is where the brain. 3 days in nature disconnected is where the brainwaves return to what would be wild or kind of ancestral level brainwaves. So if you could take your Eno for 3 days somewhere off grid, that would do amazing for you. If you could get 7, then you might not come back, you know. So it'd be, but three is the minimum scientifically.
we were gone for 4 and I didn't want to come back.
Yeah, yeah. That's why on my vacations, I don't, I throw up an email response. Hey, I'll be back sometime. I leave
Yep.
my phone off. Like,
Yep.
and I have a friend who's like, I couldn't do that. I'd die. And it's like, dude, that's the best time of the year is that time. The worst is turning it back on and hearing bing, 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 bing. But it ends up like, hey, 10 days away it equates to about 3 hours of email for me, which is worth it all day long to have those 10
Oh,
days
yeah.
off grid. So whatever it is, 3 days, 4 days, 7 days, 10 days, that'd be great if you could, yeah, go do a long weekend in the woods somewhere.